see Melanie's going because it's already done.
Yeah.
Hello, Philippa. How are you?
Can we concentrate on Philippa now that we can get over that wee speed hump?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for all coming in on a Saturday to hear our submissions. Much appreciated. My name's Philippa Joyce Drayton. I'm born and have lived in Christchurch for over 40 years and have been a resident of Diamond Harbour since 2004 and a batch holder in that area since 1968. My late husband was also a keen historical supporter, and he was chair of the local historical association, and he was resident of Diamond Harbour for over 50 years. I'm a financial life member of Heritage New Zealand, secretary of the Diamond Harbour Historical and Districts Historical Association, and I also volunteer at Manson Cottage Museum at Orton Bradley Park. I'm in full support of the business case for Te Aka, the Littleton Museum, and completely support the application for funding of the museum by the Christchurch City Council. You can see from what I've said already, I'm passionate about history. I'm also passionate about whole community access to our histories. I want to reinforce three things from my written submission. First, history is the anchor of our society, and Te Aka Littleton Museum is an anchor project in Littleton. The collections that have been entrusted to the museum are important for visitors to the area and locals to view. Crucially, the museum is also a repository for local material, local stories, voices, themes and artefacts, as well as being a space for research and reflection. As an entity, Littleton Museum complements other Canterbury museums, namely the Air Force and the Canterbury Museum. Rebuilding the Littleton Museum and providing a space to tell local stories such as Mana Whenua, Antarctica, Littleton's maritime history, and as a gateway to colonial Canterbury, is crucial to the culture and identity not only of Littleton and the Whakaropo Harbour Basin, but also to the wider regions of Canterbury and Banks Peninsula. It's not until one is in a physical space that much the local histories make sense, and for that reason, Littleton Museum and its rebuilding is important. Second, whole community access. All communities need space to document, celebrate and share in the stories that have shaped and continue to shape to the future the peoples and cultures that are unique to that area. It's about community. Access, for many it is easier and much less threatening and intimidating and more accessible to engage with a small local museum or local library for that matter, witness their roles. It's not just about turanga. Access also, telling local community stories, not just Littleton, but all the bays of Whakaropo and the peninsula. The Diamond Harbour and Districts Historical Association also fully supports this project and looks forward to the day when we can visit our museum as a physical space and explore those stories ourselves. The Littleton Museum has done well so far with the on-site cabin and pop-up events, but the communities need a physical space for those stories. Third, the Christchurch City Council has a moral and actual responsibility, not only because other avenues have dried up with recent changes to government funding, but because it's such an important cultural and social building. In contrast to the types of sporting spaces that have already been and are being built in the city. The proposed building is a replacement for the council-owned facility that was demolished after the Canterbury earthquakes, and that space is sorely needed and wanted by locals. So I urge you councillors to support this application for the funding for the rebuilding of Te Aka Littleton Museum. and thank you for your time.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Tyler, please.
Kia ora, Philippa.
Kia ora.
You'll know that we're currently going through the same process with the Canterbury Museum, and I'm wondering, would you be able to sort of highlight a bit more about the points of difference between the Canterbury Museum and Te Uaka? Your proposal?
So obviously the Canterbury Museum has a much wider view, and therefore it can only touch lightly on elements that are going to be really specific to Littleton and the peninsula and to the harbour basin. So I think that it's that much tighter focus that is one element. And that's, you'll have seen in the themes that I and the Historical Association and the Littleton Museum folk have put in their submissions. Second, it is that point of accessibility. The Tuaka Littleton Museum is going to be much, much smaller than the Canterbury Museum, and it's much easier to go into something small and local and really take away a huge amount. I've just come back from Cambridge in the North Island. It's a 2-room museum and I got so much out of it. People come to the Manson Cottage at Orton Bradley Park. I urge you to do so. We're only open when people like myself volunteer at it. But it's 1 room, but you can learn so much because you don't feel, oh, what am I going to choose? What am I going to get around? What am I going to miss out on? And it's that's why I compared it to a local library.
Thank you, Philippa. That's very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good on you. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you very much indeed.
Okay, Margaret, please.